So we've got Delphine Bernard again. Delphine, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon, Seth. I'm glad to be here again.
So we spoke about your talent, your human talent, your carbon-based talent. Then we spoke about your digital workforce. And today we're going to be talking about BPO talent. How does that talent compare to the other two? Just so we understand what your point of view is as we get into the conversation.
Yeah, great. Good question. Thank you. I think the first thing to think about is why is the BPO and why are we going to seek other talents outside our own companies? And history has shown us there's a many different way of doing it. Some people go for captive, some people go outsource. And that will depend on the strategy and the nature of the company as well as their growth. If I look at the example and what we've been doing at Uber, the important for us was to be able to scale with the growth of the company. And in order to do that, we had to find a partner, someone to allow us to continue to grow fast without having completely been in the struggle of hiring people internally. So that has been a very successful model for us and growing with that outsource partner. If you think as well as what is a BPO and why companies are doing that, I think one of the first factors that people have is a cost reduction. It's oh, we need to be cheaper, our resources are expensive, and therefore most of the time what they do is a kind of what we call a lift and shift. They decide that they need to cut the resource that they currently have and move that to a different low-cost country, either by themselves hiring the people or using external providers to give them those resources. And again, that's based on strategy on how much they want to have in the operation details. We went different in the sense that we didn't lift and shift anything. We grew with them. And therefore we start saying okay, we see that we are good in this area, processes established, or we use the BPO to help us design in those processes because we're transferring them into the BPO. So, and that is really, really important for us to be able to grow the company, absorb all the different and new line of business, absorbing the new volume, absorbing all the new countries that we're going live, in order for the finance department to really be able to continue to operate and be efficient at a lower cost. Then if we think of the second part of the question, where it brings us on what is the impact on the whole digitalization of a BPO?
Well, because as you're bringing up kind of the value, it's pace and it's cost. And those are the values that we associate quite readily with the digital workforce. And so where does it bifurcate or doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I would say that by nature, this is the first target of the digital workforce. Because, when you say that you move your work to a BPO, the first area that you move is, of course, everything that is transactional, that is mature in the process and is repetitive. And these are exactly the same components what could be automated. You automate what is transactional, that has a defined process and is repetitive. And therefore, we know that most of the first automation and the most obvious one will always start with some of the work that was done by the BPO. Then the question, and where you can look deeper, is how evolved is your BPO? If, of course, your BPO is doing everything transactional, and then over time everything will be replaced by the bots or the digital workforce, then where do they go? And that's why it's important to really have that cycle as a company that we keep on transferring process and we keep on transferring complexity to the BPO. And it's not saying the BPO or what you have in your shared service center or those functions, but not as just okay, take everything that is purely transactional because that will be the bot, but becoming more a strategic partner. And it's becoming a strategic partner on the first item is helping on that digital transformation. And that should come from them saying clearly, we know we do this work that could be fully automated. Let's work on it together to make that happen. And it's on their side to make sure that they allow the resource to bring new value and added value on what is coming next, where they can become more strategic on process changes, on the whole transformation. Where do we add value and we can like absorb more complexity that will help the entire organization to level up. So that whole like what I call like this level up and like maturization of like teams and company should come from every angle. And therefore it should not just be by the core company, but also the BPO like being a partner and making that happen. Because I don't think if they do, I don't think if they go into that game like let's do it together, they're gonna die. They're gonna die because give them another 5 or 10 years and future will tell us how fast, they're gonna have an issue with the talent. They need to invent the talent like let's move the talent to be, both processor, helping on like what could be transformed, being agile, being PM, because that's where we're gonna need those resources to really help that transformation on what we have on our end and their end.
And thank you for all of that information, that kind of insight. Separate from Uber, so not Delphine, not Uber, not the BPO that you may or may not be working with, not that. But when you do speak to your colleagues, when you whether you go to conferences or whatever it may be, what are your thoughts on if BPOs in general are picking up on the fact that they should be doing what you're talking about, how quickly they are ramping up to that fact? Are they meeting the issue where it is? Are they slightly behind or what? From your colleagues' perspective.
It's really different from every place. I would say it's really a mix everywhere. I think overall, even if some companies have been in the digitalization for quite a while, I see lot of them still like going through it. And I think it's more complex and more difficult and take more time than what we assume, because overall what we're talking about is change management. And the whole change management has to happen across like organization. And I've talked to a lot of my peers in other like tech industry, and they're going through that over and over again. And that is the process that will take another couple of years before we can really see that it's good in there. I think there's good intentions and conscience everywhere. Really, the execution is not there yet. But it's a work in progress. And some of them are a bit further along the line than others. It's still a mix. But yeah, I have not seen like the North Star like being amazingly done somewhere yet.
And in fairness to that section of the economy, we don't have a bright shining example of intelligent automation, across the board from corporate enterprise either. I would imagine, right? We're trying, but we're not quite perfect yet, are we?
Nobody's perfect yet, and we keep on raising the bar, so that's a good thing too. So it's just like, keep on working over there, and there's a lot of like amazing talent everywhere from the BPO places, the other providers, as well as Intel, and it's driving towards that. It's just like, I think as every change, we're going through different round of cycles where we keep on learning where we should go next and how we get better.
Perfect. Delphine, very much appreciate your insight in all of these conversations, particularly this one, and I cannot wait for the next one. How about that?
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.